Hi, 5th graders. Today we have our second lesson in RI 5.1. We're going to continue to work on quoting accurately from the text when explaining what the text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from the text. Remember, to make an inference, we take what we put them together. We take what we read, we take what we know, and we put them together to make an inference. We're going to continue to look at inferring with vocabulary. One of the strategies we talked about yesterday was to read around the word to find clues. The other thing you need to do when you're inferring with vocabulary is think about what do you know about the topic. Then you'll put those two pieces of information together to figure out what the word might mean. The vocabulary strategy we're going to talk about closer today is those context clues. Context clues are words in a sentence or paragraph that help the reader deduce or reason out the meaning of an unfamiliar word. The different context clues we're going to study today are synonym, comparison, contrast, explanation, and example. First, let's look at the synonym clue. Sometimes an unfamiliar word is used as a synonym, a word having either the same or similar meanings as another word. You can infer or figure out the meaning of an unfamiliar word by replacing it with a familiar word. For example, I feel completely satiated. In fact, I'm so full that I could not possibly eat another morsel of food. So in this sentence, satiated is followed with a similar word or a synonym. Full is a synonym for satiated. We can conclude that the word satiated means full or satisfied. The next type of context clue we can look for is comparison clue. Sometimes an unfamiliar word is used in a comparison with familiar word or groups of words. The author gives us these hints to help us with that unknown word. For example, the children huddle around their teacher like baby chicks around a mother hen. The children are being compared to baby chicks around a mother hen. We can conclude then that huddle means to crowd together closely. The phrase like baby chicks around a mother hen is a simile. A simile is a literary device that uses the word like or as to describe one thing by comparing it to another. So here's a good example of why we study similes and metaphors. They can help us to infer what those new words might mean. Contrast clue. Sometimes an unfamiliar word may be used in contrast to a familiar word or group of words. You can infer the meaning of the unfamiliar word by giving it the opposite meaning of the familiar word. For example, unlike Robin, who is full of life, Rachel is lackluster. So here is an antonym. The opposite of full of life is an empty life. The word lackluster is used to contrast Robin and Rachel. We can conclude then that the word lackluster means lacking liveliness. The next type of context clue we're going to look at is an explanation clue. Sometimes an unfamiliar word may be followed with an explanation in which a familiar word or group of words is used. For example, Marcia is insatiable. She can eat all day and never feel full. So here they're explaining what the word insatiable means. Here, the second part of the sentence, she can eat all day and never feel full, is used to explain the first part of the sentence. Marcia is insatiable. We can conclude that insatiable means incapable of being full or incapable of being satisfied. The last type we're going to look at today is an example clue. Sometimes an unfamiliar word may be followed by an example, which the familiar word is used. Here's an example of an example clue. In college, you can choose courses from a broad range of academic disciplines, such as history, economics, mathematics, and psychology. You are probably familiar with the primary or first meaning of the word discipline. That means to control. But that doesn't quite fit in the context of this sentence. The word discipline also has a secondary meaning. We can use the context clues of the sentence to figure out this meaning. The word is followed by several examples: history, economics, mathematics, and psychology. Note the word such as lets us know that examples will follow. We can conclude then that each of these subjects is an example of a discipline, and that the word discipline means a branch of institution or a learning. For example, you have many disciplines when you come to school here. We go to reading, writing, and math. Now sometimes the context clues are in the surrounding sentences. Sometimes the clues to a word's meanings are not found in the exact same sentence. You must read a few sentences before and or after the sentence in which the word appears. Read the following passage and underline all of the words that provide the clues to the meaning of institutions. This paragraph says, California has many educational institutions that have been affected by the recent state budget cuts. Its public universities have been badly hit and will need to increase tuition. In addition, next year's funding for elementary, middle, and high schools has been cut significantly. What do you think the meaning of institution is? Go ahead and pause now. Raise your hand when you think you know. Make sure you also know what clues the author gave you to help you understand the meaning of institutions. Okay, if you're back to the video, that means that I have already checked your answer for this one. Let's look at another example. This example says, what does delicate mean as used in the following sentence? Now, more than 100 years old, many of Andersen's delicate paper cuttings still exist in a museum in Denmark devoted to his work. Does delicate mean A, thin, B, fragile, C, creative, or D, old? This paragraph came from the passage, Remarkable Paper Cuttings of Hans Christian Andersen, from the California Department of Education, 2004. In the above example, underline your clue words. What is the correct answer? Now, you don't have to underline because I'm on a video here, but I do need you to raise your hand and once again have this checked. Tell me what you think the word delicate means in this sentence, and tell me also what your clue words were. Go ahead and do that now. The easiest way to figure out what type of context clue it's giving you is to look for these signal words. Signal words for comparisons or synonyms are going to be and, such as, like, or similar to. That will signal to you that it's telling you a new vocabulary word and then it's giving you a synonym. A signal word for explanations would be words like because of, or since, or in other words, and then they would be explaining what would happen next. Signal words for contrasting are however, although, though, despite, but, in contrast to, rather, unlike, on the other hand, as opposed to, nevertheless, yet, and while. Those should signal to you that there's going to be a word that means the opposite or something that is a contrasting idea to help you know that it's going to be an antonym for that word. Another signal word that you can look for are these example ones. For example, for instance, such as, like, other, one kind, includes, or including. A third type of context clues you can look for is punctuation clues. For example, commas. Commas will often separate for example, commas. In this sentence right here, the two commas enclose the words, a small figure of ivory, wood, metal, or ceramic, to signal to the reader that the definition of the word netsuk follows. Netsuk, comma, a small figure of ivory, wood, metal, or ceramic, comma, is a form of Japanese art. So right in here between the commas, it tells you the definition. Colons are also nice. For example, this sentence says, there are many different types of professions in society, and there's a colon, law, medicine, accounting, and education. In this sentence, the colon signals to the reader that a list of examples will follow. Law, medicine, teaching, and accounting are all examples of these professions. Semicolons. Neil is such a cynic. He finds it difficult to believe that I would help him out in out of the goodness of my heart. In this above sentence, the semicolon signals to the reader that an explanation or a continuation of the thought will follow. The fact that Neil thinks the worst of everyone explains why the author believes that he is a cynic. A cynic is someone who believes that only selfishness motivates human actions. Some more punctuation you might see are parentheses. Damien was fatigued. He hadn't slept for 2 days and came straight home from school. In this sentence, the parentheses signal to the reader that an explanation is provided. Although you may not know that the word fatigued means, you can probably figure out its meaning through the explanation contained within the parentheses. He hadn't slept for days. Someone who hasn't slept for days is probably very tired, and that is exactly what fatigued means. Another one is hyphens. Example of this is once a nasal infection reaches the bronchial tubes, cilia, tiny hair-like structures, can act to prevent further damage. In between these hyphens signal to the reader that a definition follows. We know, therefore, that cilia means tiny hair-like structures. Also, dashes can help. Neurology, the science of the nerves and nervous system, is a popular major at our university. In this above sentence, the dashes signal to the reader that a definition or explanation follows. We therefore know that neurology means the science of the nerves and the nervous system. Today your worksheet looks like this. List all the signal words or punctuation marks and context clues for each sentence. Then guess the meaning of the underlined word. The first one has been completed for you. Working with a tutor may have many beneficial results. One positive outcome is that you may feel more comfortable asking questions in a one-on-one setting than you would in a large classroom. So the signal words or marks, this mark happens to be the semicolon we just talked about, have many beneficial results. One positive outcome, okay? So one positive outcome is the context clues that help us there. And the word beneficial, meaning of the beneficial is positive or advantageous, okay? So let's look at this next one that you're going to do on your own and then complete the rest of the worksheet. I despise broccoli, but I adore spinach. So what are the signal words or signal marks that are used here? What context clues? And then what are the meaning of despise, do you think? You're going to complete this whole worksheet and raise your hand and have it checked when you're finished.